Hey guys, welcome to Outdoor Photo, and we're going to have a sit down with Roger today. We're complying with all the social distancing and screens and whatnot. So we've got some hand sanitizer. Starting to feel a bit of a buzz from all of this stuff at the moment, but it's crazy times we live in, and we're going to chat about stuff today that's been postponed a little bit, but it's still exciting as hell.
Indeed, yeah.
We've got the R5 here. There's tons of sites and places where you can go and have a look at the specs, but I think what we really want to touch base on today is especially on the R6, some of the new lenses that are out, and also especially the transition that Canon's brought to the market in crossing from DSLR to mirrorless. How are you guys finding it so far?
Well, it's interesting times, and again, thanks very much for having us. It's always a greatly appreciated to actually spend time with you guys. It's been a totally weird thing not seeing you for like 3-4 months. It's kind of bizarre, and now seeing you through a window, it's still kind of bizarre. You know, we literally took our masks off a few seconds ago. So obviously, you know, this is the huge news. A lot of stuff was leaked. Some of a lot of the R5 spec was sort of mentioned up front a couple of months back as a teaser, just to say to people, hey, listen, this is most certainly coming. And slowly but surely we started seeing people going, yeah, no, that can't be real. So we had to do another announcement saying, no, it is actually real. Things like the 8K 30p, the 4K 120, all that kind of stuff. I'm not going to go into the specs, etc., but this has been a long consideration of Canon. There's a lot of accusations out there that Canon's now finally caught up, and Canon's now finally... These products were actually planned before the EOS R launch, so they've been in production for longer than the EOS R, for example. But we put the EOS R and the RP in the market to get people familiar with what we were doing and what we were thinking, that we could start being a lot more creative, not just in terms of the specifications on the product, but when it came to the glass, when it came to the lenses, we could do, the possibilities were pretty much endless. And specifically because, EF mount, we've got a lot. We've got 80 odd lenses in the current lineup. We've made 140 million in the last 30 odd years. So, like we spoke about in the DX3, we'd reached almost a design threshold of what we can do that's new. We're doing sort of Mark 2s, Mark 3s, etc. But mirrorless came along with a whole bunch of new possibilities. That shallow flange back distance, autofocus off the sensor, not off a sub mirror. That's huge. I mean, that changes a lot.
I think that's something that I definitely want to touch on too. There's so many advances in the technology on mirrorless that's changed, and Canon's been really good with the whole transition from DSLR to mirrorless.
Sure.
But there are still a couple of questions coming up regarding maximum apertures and focusing speeds. I know on cameras like the 7D, the 1DX and the 5D ranges, you had to have maximum f8 aperture,
correct,
to be able to maintain autofocus functionality. With these cameras, it's changed.
Well, absolutely, and this is yet another one of the distinct advantages of mirrorless. Mirrorless comes with a whole bunch of really, really cool stuff. What you see is what you get, the electronic viewfinder, all of that kind of stuff. There's a lot of negativity around some of those things like viewfinder lag and electronic shutter having rolling shutter effects.
It's a mind shift, I also feel.
But as you say, it is a mind shift, and it is something that you have to physically get your mind around. And you and I had this discussion about the EOS R. The first time we both touched it, it wasn't something that we liked. It took a while to actually grow on you. And when you start seeing the actual quality of the end result, you're then sold. You'll get past your electronic viewfinder.
Yeah, I found it doesn't grow on you; it latches on.
Okay. Well, it's handy you should mention that. But when we talk about autofocus, that is quite a major factor. It allows the sensitivity of these sensors and being able to autofocus on the sensor. It allows a much lower amount of light to be able to focus, and a much smaller aperture it can actually handle. Now, traditionally, the autofocus sensor was behind a sub mirror, so you had your main mirror, another mirror, and you were going down to a sensor in the bottom of the camera, and it was actually facing up. And it's often why sometimes you had calibration issues between putting the lens on, it looks like it's in focus, take the shot, autofocus sensor, it's magic, and you look at the shot afterwards and it's back focused. And this is because you get a calibration of that microfine sensor at the bottom there, and calibration of where the actual digital sensor was had to be perfectly matched, and the control there was minute. And you often had situations with a fast-moving subject, you locked on the focus, and the amount of time it took for the mirror to come up and the shutter to open, the subject had moved sufficiently to actually change that focus. Now, the bigger the cameras, the 7Ds, the DXs, took that into account and predicted for it. And the latest DX3 thinks of it far more than anything else we've ever made. But it was still a factor. And of course that sensor is physically small in the bottom of the camera, and it needed, at one stage, you couldn't have anything wider, darker than 5.6. Couldn't focus, and only the big cameras, as you said, it could focus at f8, but then it was only on the center point only, because you were at the brightest point of the lens. This, we're now in a situation where it can do f8 across the entire frame. The new f11 lenses, it can do it in a sort of 60% horizontally, 40% vertically in the middle of the frame. And when you go to f16 with the converters, or f22, yes, you drop down to a smaller area, but even at f22, you're looking at about sort of 25% off the center. And that's crazy. F22, I mean, it's a number that unparalleled. But there's something else that comes with that mirrorless, that the depth of field at those kind of numbers doesn't look like you have it in your head. And this is something that a lot of people are going to start talking about when we start talking about the 600 and the 800. They are f11 lenses, but on the 800, for example, at the close focus distance, which is about 6 meters, at 800 well, f11 is around about 4 centimeters. That's your depth of field.
I think that's something that people need to kind of take into consideration, is that the dynamics and everything around mirrorless has completely changed from DSLR.
Yeah.
I mean, it's closer to the sensor. The whole mathematical equation in working out your depth of field, everything, it's going to be different on this equipment.
Of course, yeah.
And again, that's why it's been such a huge success, in my opinion.
Yeah. And I think it's something that the DSLR users who are still skeptical have to see it for themselves. When you see not only the shot that's been taken at f11 and you look at that shallow depth of field, you go, okay, it shouldn't look like this. It's only when you've actually done it yourself that you start believing. It's a very hard thing to put on a piece of paper to say, this is how it's going to be, and this is because of the science and the maths. It's just crazy, and I love it to pieces.
Part and parcel of it is also that there's this culture that we have to go wide open. It has to be f2.8 or it has to be f1.2.
Yeah.
Which is incredible in certain situations, but in other situations, if you've got an 800mm lens, that focal distance makes a huge difference to your depth of field.
Yeah.
So,
and I mean, it's another thing that when people think of f11, they're more often not working on the premise of like a sub 100mm lens, like an 85 or a 2470. You shoot at f11, there's a lot of depth of field.
Yeah.
F11 is something you use for macro photography to get the entire insect in, or for landscape to get from the building to the field to the mountains. But when you're shooting an 800mm, f11 is not a hell of a lot.
Yeah.
And the only thing is, the sort of private game reserves are going to be fantastic, but the Krugers of this world, where you don't really have a lot of control. And if that lion's lying there with a blade of grass across its eye, yes, f4, f2.8, you can blur that out and you don't see it. f11, you're going to see it. I'm sorry, that's just what it is. But you can't control that in any shape, way, or form.
Yeah.
The fundamental difference is this 800mm lens is $20,000. Our other 800 is 4.5 kilos versus 1.2. 4.5 kilos, f5.6, 180,000 rand.
Yeah. Slight price difference.
10 times the price.
Yeah.
So you're paying a tenth of the price. You're getting the same focal length, and your price is 3 stops.
But this stuff's also the DO technology is
Correct.
much lighter. I mean, I couldn't believe the weight of this.
Well, lighter and smaller. I mean, you saw me coming in today with literally those two bodies and all of this in one backpack. A 600mm, 100/500, the 85mm, 2 extenders, 2 bodies. It is crazy, and that, as you say, the DO technology allows you to do that. You've got the 800. It is bigger. Make no mistake. But there's nothing stopping you from putting a 600, 800, and 100/500 in a backpack with one body. The size-wise, this is a kilo, around about 26 centimeters. That's 1.2 kilos, around about 35 centimeters.
This is lighter than 100 to 400.
Oh, by a long shot, yeah. But then this is how you travel with it. When you put it on the camera, it'll tell you to put the camera in the lens in shooting position. You unlock that, pull it into shooting position, and you lock it back in. And it's a nice firm construction. They haven't mickeyed around with plastic or anything like that. Just feel it for yourself. You can see it's considered, it's strong, it's robust, it's durable. It's meant for pretty everyday use. And
this thing's ideal for birding.
Oh yeah,
Which one?
But the crazy thing is, you take a 4.5 kilo 800mm lens, trying to wave that through the sky on a bird in flight is a nightmare. versus a kilo, waving that around for birding, it's absolutely epic. I've noticed for in a lot of cases, I've been shooting a lot of birds over the last 3 years, and 600mm is a great focal length, but 800 is just that little bit better. And we've got to get the big mindset out there. When we first launched out 800mm lenses, the market was trying to shoot stuff that was doodanacut. You know, I took a guy to Pilanesberg, and he was shooting hippos across the other side of a valley, and there was 6 hippos taking up around about a third of the frame. He had, because he was European, he had an idea in his head that a hippo is the size of this table. What he didn't realise, the hippo is the size of 4 of these tables. And when you got 6 of them on the other side of a valley on an 800mm lens, he was looking at the picture and saying, it's soft. This 800mm lens is not worth the money. I was like, you're wrong. You shouldn't be looking at that. The environmentals, the dust, the heat haze, everything. Distortion. He was a kilometre away. You know, it was crazy. And that's not what these are for. These are for that really small bird, the mannequins, the white eyes, etc. When they're 6, 7, 8 meters away, and at 600mm, you're going to get 12 pixels. 800mm, you're going to get a lot closer and a lot more detailed, and they are spectacular when you're close up. Obviously, the further away you're going to get, the environmentals come into play, like they will on all of these things. But for birders in this country, that combination with the 6, and this is one of the reasons why I wanted to push the 6 more than the 5 a little bit, you know.
All right, we'll get to that in a second. I just want to kind of connect it with the advances in the converters as well. Yeah. Because obviously now you've got the new 100 to 500 here.
Correct.
We'll touch on the 7.1 aperture on that in a second. One of the big things here as well, the converters are not compatible with a 70 to 200 anymore.
Yeah.
But at these price points, you're either going to buy a 70 to 200 or you're going to something like this, 100 to 500 millimeter or these 600, 800 millimeter lenses. Looking at the converters, they are compatible with these, but obviously multiply your apertures.
Yes.
And again, these cameras can handle that.
Well, yeah, absolutely, and it's the double whammy of the benefits of the autofocus system on the mirrorless, essentially. And yes, you are right; they don't fit and work on the 7200, and that's purely because of that element sticking inside the body. That 7200 was designed around the mentality that the average user is going to shoot it at 2.8, and they want incredible quality in a very, very small size. And the sacrifice that Canon made was, well, let's make it that size, and it's super compact for a 7200.
Usually more for your portrait photography, weddings, whatever.
Yeah. And to that end, we said, okay, well, the sacrifice we're going to make, it's not going to work with the converters. We could have made it the same size as our existing 7200 2.8 and made it compatible. But then we're kind of defeating the purpose. What people wanted out of mirrorless was to downsize.
Compact size.
Yeah. So, and yet again, it's a really good segue for us to talk about the 100-500. That, yes, it is 7.1. And that was a price we had to pay for a specific reason. Physical size-wise, it's a centimetre longer than the existing 100-400. And again, that's the target market we're talking to, essentially. Weight-wise, it's actually 200 grams lighter than the 100-400. But you're getting exactly that. So the 100-400 on this, the 100mm is at 4.5. When you get to 400, you're still at 5.6, which is identical to your existing 100-400. It's just that last 100mm is where it goes to 7.1. So Canon most certainly did the investigation. We said, right, let's have a look, see what this would look like if we made it 5.6 all the way to 500. It needed an extra 13mm on the diameter on the front element, and it needed an extra 350 grams. And it needed an extra $1,000. So as it is, it's quite an expensive lens, make no mistake. But in order to keep it that size, that weight, 7.1 was a compromise we made to get that extra 100mm. And it's not a big one. And as you quite rightly said, the autofocus, it doesn't see a difference with it, to all intents and purposes. The depth of field is so minor that at 7.1 at 500, this looks like 5.6 at 400. It's practically identical. So what's the problem? And they've done a couple of things which I like. It's the exact same hood as the 7200, which means the diameter of that front element, that filter thread, everything. They're starting to get a little bit more standard. They're starting to think quite logically about photographers, and they're decent investments.
That's something that's great to me in terms of the battery grip.
Yeah,
they brought out one battery grip for both of these cameras.
Correct. Yeah.
So that's also something a little bit more I don't want to say generic, but it's more versatile. I mean, if
Correct.
you're moving from one camera to another, you've got the one grip for the one, you can get it on the other.
Yeah.
You've got one component instead of having different components and guys buying the wrong stuff.
Well, one thing I do want to mention on that battery grip, because you guys are seeing it pretty much for the first time. They only literally arrived yesterday. Not only is it a standard sort of dual battery grip with 2 batteries, as you would expect, it is a fully functional vertical grip. You have your on-off switch, you have all of your buttons, all of your dials on the back, including your jog shuttle. So it is also fully functional. The one thing that is a big difference, the EOS R battery grip had a USB-C port.
Yes.
And you could use it as a dual charger. This does not have the USB-C port. It does not plug into the PDE-1. But, as you can see, it still says charge on the back with the 2 battery lights. If you plug the camera into the USB-C from the PDE-1 battery supply, it still works as a double charger.
Okay.
So it charges via the camera. So if you have one battery in the camera, you plug the PDE-1, it charges that one battery. But if you've got the 2 batteries in the grip, the PDE-1 plugs into the camera, not the grip. So that was the advantage on the EOS R, that you could actually put 2 batteries in here, take the grip off, and have that charging those 2 while you shot with the camera on the third.
It's not that much of a loss. I mean, it's
in the greatest scheme of things, it
first
isn't.
of all, it's something less that needs to be sealed up for weather sealing and so on.
Yeah, it is a little thing, and you might find 1 or 2 people who are nitpicking, because the internet at the moment is going boss about the fact that the only people who've played with these are Canon Explorers of Light or Canon ambassadors, and yes, they are paid to tell you how everything is great. And in the greatest scheme of things, they are, yes, paid by Canon, and they are paid to be enthusiastic and nothing but rainbows coming out their mouths, to coin a phrase. There are some negatives, but they're so tiny as to become almost a non-issue. And as I say, that one thing, having to charge from the camera, not the grip, is possibly the only thing I found.
If we hit directly, the only 2 negatives I found on the EOS R, hopefully one of them can be solved with a firmware update, I don't know, but single point spot metering.
Yeah.
Is that linked to the focus points on these, or is it still center
It's a damn fine question. I must admit, I haven't tested it myself, and I haven't read the fine print.
Okay.
I'd have to do a dig. It is something that I would estimate, because it was always something that we had on our DX level of cameras, that you could link the spot metering to the focus point. But that was when you were in a situation where the focus area was relatively small. I think, given the fact that the focus area on these is huge, on an f8 lens, I mean, you're focusing 99% horizontally and 100% vertically. You're focusing pretty much anywhere.
Yeah.
I don't know if the spot meter can link all the way to the top right-hand corner, because it is what it is. In that situation, you might have to go with the meter and recompose rather than focus recompose. Having said that, what I have seen is it's spectacularly good, and I use partial or spot metering a lot, and I use focus all over the place. Especially the animal eye tracking. I stand to be corrected, but what I've seen is truly amazing.
It's a tiny thing that I had to readjust my approach to shooting, but it wasn't that big of a problem.
Sure.
I think the other thing that has become an absolute ornament on my EOS R is that touch slider, which I'm glad to see is now gone on these.
Yeah. Again, it was an experiment, and there are some people who loved it, some people who hated it. But the big things that people loved the most, which was you've been able to use your thumb to focus, that's still here. That jog shuttle is now there in lieu of that slider. And again, we listened. The 2 card slots, the IBIS, the jog shuttle, all of the things that people wanted, we've put into these. In the greatest scheme of things, the biggest advance that I've seen, more than anything else, is the power of that Digic X chip, which came with that deep learning from the DX3, powering the autofocus system. It is insane. I've never seen autofocus like this in my entire life. The DX3 is phenomenal, without a shadow of a doubt. For the 16 frames a second, truly and utterly epic. With the mirror lockup, for shooting sports and for shooting people, unfathomable. The deep learning that was able to look at a person's shape and body, whether it was on a bicycle, in a helmet, doing gymnastics, doing pole vaulting. That's come here plus. And they've now added the animal side of things. and the dog and cat and bird was what they put in. And I was fortunate enough to get the R5 around about 3 days before lockdown, and I got a phone call from head office saying, "Is there any chance you could shoot wild cat, wild dog, just so that we've got something to test the cat and dog eye autofocus?" And I phoned around a hell of a lot, and pretty much every game reserve, everything was like, "Dude, no, we're closed. Lockdown's happening on Thursday. There's nothing we can do." But Anne van Dijk Cheetah Foundation in Hartbeespoort, they said, we can fit you in for 1 hour on Wednesday morning. Be here at 6, and we booked it, we paid for it, and they gave us 3 cheetah runs, where I was sitting in the grass, with an apex predator cheetah hurtling towards me, and they've got a cheetah run where they tow on a piece of wire, a little lure, and it runs 70 meters down, 20 meters across, and comes 70 meters back up. And they normally have a shooting area from the side, but because we'd asked for a special photographic permission and paid for that privilege, they allowed me to sit at the end of the run with a cheetah coming straight towards me.
The most difficult form of continuous focus.
Well, I thought if we're going to test animal eye autofocus, let's not putting a lion in a cage. Let's not bugger around. Let's have a cheetah. Let's have a cheetah running straight at me. And the first shot I did was with the 70-200 2.8 RF lens. And I found the cheetah was too small in the frame, and it was either me getting closer to a cheetah. I looked like a small buffalo, And the greatest scheme of things, I thought, no, okay, so I switched over to the 100-400, and on the third run, I got, I think, 62 shots. At 20 frames a second. That cheetah was covering the 70 meters in 3 seconds. 3 seconds. This animal's covering 30 meters in a second and a half. It's insane. And he's coming straight towards me. And I'm not going to lie to you, not every single one was in, but I've got 40 out of the 60 shots where the eye tracking's locked on the eye and it's pin sharp at f5.6 on the 100-400. And if you look at the video that Canon USA put up, they actually used the cheetah burst images, my cheetah shots, to show exactly. They've got that entire sequence of 60 shots, and they pulled out the 2 or 3, and you look at the shot, and it's on the cheetah's eye, and it's bang on the freaking money.
Incredible.
That's taken to the nth degree. So that's just a hint to what the autofocus was aimed at. We're not going to do a camera that's 20 frames a second without having an autofocus that matches it. And it's supremely intelligent. It really, really, really is good. I've never seen anything like this in my life for birds. We shot at Ritvlei a week ago, and black widowbird. This is a black bird, black feathers, black eye, black wattle around the eye, and the black beak. On the 800mm lens, its eye is representing on this about 100,000 pixels, less than that, like 10,000 pixels. Boom, locked on, and it goes from body to head to eye in the space of like half a second. As long as you hold that subject within the focus area, which is the entire frame, or on the 800 a small area, it goes, and it goes boom. And once it's got it, it flipping stays. The bird's turning its head from side to side, and it'll go from the eye to the head, back to the eye. And cats, wild cats, lion, cheetah, wild dog, no saga whatsoever. The first version of firmware I shot with at Ritvlei, zebra was a no. Wildebeest, no, not at all. On the second version I shot 10 days ago, with a later version of firmware, it picked up rhino, it picked up zebra, and it picked up the hartebeest, I think it is, one of those other antelopes. So it's not just cat and dog eye autofocus, it's quite a lot of animals. And when you consider a rhino, that's a rhino's head is a box, and with 2 pointy bits at one end, and the eye is most certainly not where you would think it was, and it still found it. So it's almost like they made this camera for us, for you. Finally, we've got the wildlife camera of note. And this is where the 6 is going to be the one that we really want to push at the 72 market.
I want to touch on that, because a lot of the chaos at the moment on the internet is revolving around the R5.
Of course, yeah.
We know this is a game changer. We know this is the camera that's going to do anything exceptionally well.
Yeah.
But where does an R6 fit into the
Well, this is exactly it. That's the Swiss Army knife. You can do anything. At 45 million pixels, you've got your high resolution, your landscape, your beauty, your billboards, your very, very fine detail. It's exactly what you want. In terms of frames per second, you can do sports, action, no saga whatsoever. In terms of video, you've got 4K, 120, 8K, 30. everything you could possibly need. That camera ticks it. And IBIS on the body and dual card slots, the works. It is the absolute beast. But the 6 comes in as a smaller, well, not really smaller, just a lighter alternative. In terms of weather sealing, almost exactly the same. In terms of card slots, 2 SD versus a CF Express and SD.
Yeah.
In terms of resolution, 20 rather than 45. 20, I've seen prints at 20 million pixels, the size of this piece of glass, for example. The quality is most certainly there without a saga. But in high ISO, I mean, that goes up to 50,000. This takes it up to 100,000. The high ISO performance on this is ludicrous. So a couple of negatives. The viewfinder refresh rate is at 60 versus 120. So the frames per second refresh on the viewfinder is a little bit slower. But in the greater scheme of things, for the difference in price, you're still getting a 4K 60p camera. That's pretty nice. Still full HD at 120. That's still pretty damn usable for the majority of people. You're getting 2 card slots. You're getting IBIS. You're getting 20 frames a second. For a sports action photographer, this is what the 72 user's been waiting for. And I mean, you can read into it what you like. The odds of there being a 73. We've had this discussion when we launched the 90D. I don't think there is ever going to be a 73.
I also think that this is just another step closer to the end of DSLR.
Yeah,
I wouldn't say. I've always been saying I think DSLR at the moment is looking for a really comfortable spot in a retirement home.
Yeah,
it's not dead yet. The 1DX Mark III showed us that it's definitely not dead.
Correct.
But the advances in this technology is incredible, and I think for guys wanting to move from a 70 Mark II, this is an ideal upgrade. It's full frame.
Well, now's the time to go from crop frame to full frame.
You've got the easy transition into mirrorless.
Yeah.
These kits, will they be coming with the RF adapters or without?
Unfortunately not. So the EF to RF adapter was something that Canon Europe did for Europe, Middle East and Africa for the first 18 months of sales of the EOS R, the RP I should say, to ease the transition into mirrorless. These are meant as almost an upgrade for people who've got an R or an RP. So they've already got the adapter. But it was meant to. We've got to get to a price point. We've got to keep it as clean as we can.
Those adapters will always be available. Should you want to use your old EF lenses onto this? Something that I've also been telling people a lot is that you won't be losing quality when you're using EF glass on the new R system.
If anything, you're getting better quality.
You're getting better than you used to on the DSLR.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. The autofocus is better for one, and number two, the digital lens optimizer firmware built into this, it makes those lenses look better. They don't for any second think you're losing anything.
Yeah.
If anything, you're getting more. And that's quite a big thing for people to get their heads around. You're always under the estimation, I'm putting an adapter, I'm adapting, and that comes from that sort of feeling of...
You're not losing light, you're not losing quality, there's no elements in the adapter or anything.
It's just a spacer. Yeah.
So, and then obviously, when you get the chance to upgrade to RF glass, it just opens up a completely new world.
Yeah, but I foresee a lot of 72 users having that wonderful combination. The 7200-400 was beautiful. It was magic for this country. And if they had the 1.4 extender, what an absolute pleasure. On the crop sensor, they were getting a 700-800 millimeter lens. It was beautiful. If you go to the R6, buy the adapter, keep your 100-400, keep your 1.4 extender, maybe invest in the 600 RF. Without spending a stupid amount of money, you're getting a hell of a lot more camera. From crop sensor to full frame, from a DSLR to mirrorless, you're getting a smaller body, you're getting so much more in terms of punch. But that quick, easy familiarity, everything is right where you want it to be.
Transition into this, with the first range of R cameras out, the concern was focusing speed.
Yeah.
With this, it's completely a different story. As you mentioned, with the new Digic X processors in them, I don't think there's really a holdback not to cross over into mirrorless technology at the moment.
Absolutely, and again, one of the things that we are also going to be doing, I mean, the 600 and the 800 not only designed for the R5 and the R6, they are also going to work perfectly on the RP and the EOS R. However, because both those cameras have f8 autofocus, it's going to need a firmware update. So there's going to be a firmware update coming along that'll give it f11, f16 and f22 over the next couple of months. However, the big question about whether the animal and bird eye autofocus can come to the R.
Yes.
Unfortunately, it can't, because we need the Digic X, the deep learning. Having said that, on a single point autofocus, the EOS R and the 800mm, I couldn't fault it. It is absolutely amazing. And again, I'm beta testing an F11 autofocus at the moment. It's not quite final, but once it's ready, it'll come quite nicely. And again, there's got a couple of thousand people in South Africa who've got Rs and RPs. We cannot forget that those are the people who are going to want to buy these lenses. So,
yes.
Yeah.
I mean, it's incredible technology. And talking about the lenses, there's one little nugget there in front of you that I'm also interested in. The 85mm.
It's quite weird,
F2.
yeah. Yeah, this baby lost a little bit of thunder in amongst the behemoths around you. It's like this little stepchild in the corner.
Oh, there, by the way.
But because it was ready to go as well. The 85mm f2, and it's yet another one in the sort of slightly lower price type of mentalities that Canon's coming up with, and it's meant to replace the EF 85 1.8. I mean, that's been on the market for 20 odd years, and it's a workhorse, and it's had no change in price and no change in specification for 20 years. However, at 1.8 it's beautiful in the middle, but the second you get like 30% off the center, it kind of falls away. This was designed to come along at f2. The sharpness to corner to corner to corner, it is utterly magnificent.
And the macro functionality of it, is it 1-to-1 or?
No, it's one. I've got to try to get this right. It's not 2-to-1. It's 1-to-2. So half the size on the same as a fruit as it is in real life. But that was something that was Canon making it a little bit more versatile. So not just about being able to make an 85mm, which is a good beauty portrait lens. From 3 meters away you can do sort of waist length. From 2 meters you're doing head and shoulders. From 1 meter you're doing just like a face.
I'm just thinking practically. I mean, if I have to go to a wedding, I've got the 35mm on the one body. That's a macro lens, but it's a wider angle. You've got the 85 on the other lens. Two ideal focal lengths to cover the whole wedding. Yeah. And both of them have macro functionality.
Absolutely.
So you've got your detail covered. You've got pretty much everything covered in those two lenses, and they're very affordable.
Absolutely. It's not L series, but my God, the quality is so close. And that's the beauty of RF, that this new lens mount, these new sensors, almost everything looks like L series. I mean, you've seen that 35 1.8. I
was stumped by the quality on that. Yeah, it is incredible.
It's exquisite. And everybody'd love to own an 85 1.2. We know. But that comes in a weight and a prices. And so, please consider this. Please look at it, because what I've seen out of it, it is truly an utterly beautiful little lens.
Roger, I want to thank you very much for the time you spend with us. It's been a hell of a video and a hell of an episode. Let's call it an episode. But it's incredible times. I'm thoroughly excited about everything that's on the table here. I'm excited about what's laying ahead for Canon. Yeah. Anything else that you...
Jesus, that's not enough.
No, this is more than enough.
Put it this way, we ain't done yet. And everybody thinks, Canon's launched one SLR this year. We actually launched two, the 850D. And the market sort of lost that, and it disappeared a little bit. I challenge you to have a look out there. Just go to 850D on YouTube, and it's the greatest camera that Canon's made that nobody's talking about. It is a truly magnificent little SLR, and it's just, you have to remember that we're not giving up on SLR. In any shape, way or form, we're going to carry on pushing. We've had the 90D, DX3 and 850D in the last year and a half. We're not done. We're not done with SLR. So I'm not going to hint at it or say what else is coming, but
the major development in the future will be R.
All the money is essentially, and more on this. Now that we've got a nice range, the R, the RP, they both fit a very, very specific purpose. The RA, the unusual astrophotography, and now we've got these two beasts at the top end of the scale. We have a really good range of options in dedicated R lenses, but again with the adapters, pretty much all the EFs fit and work, which is crazy. I
don't think there's anything that's been left out for the market to say, hey, why aren't you guys coming to the table? I mean, this stuff is incredible. I'm looking forward to getting my hands onto some of it, and
soon. These are all like pre-production, like definitely do not shoot with yet. So once the final versions are here, we'll put them in your hands and go out with some photographers and see what it looks like. Until you see it, wow.
Roger, thank you very much. I'll give you a screen bump.
An absolute pleasure. I was trying to knock the screen
Guys,
over.
thank you very much for joining us on this episode. If you guys got any questions, please drop us a mail on our website, outdoorphoto.co.za. You can contact the sales guys through there. We've got a new video call function as well. Get your orders in for these equipment. Cameras, we're expecting close to mid-August.
R5 hopefully before the end of July.
Okay.
The big lenses in the R6 in August. The 85 is a little bit behind that, probably September.
Okay. Sounds all good to me.
Absolutely, love it.
Great. Thank you guys. Enjoy it. Keep an eye out on our website for the arrival and get your pre-orders in if you're interested. Contact any of the sales guys and we'll help out with any questions that you might have. Cheers.